Side order! Where's side order? Bring it to me! Are you serious? It's not out yet. It's 6 a.m. On the 21st of January in 2005!
The wait is finally over. Wave 2 of the Splatoon 3 expansion pass, Side Order, has arrived, announced over a year ago in the February 2023 Nintendo Direct on February 8th. Side Order showcased a new direction for the series. Taking on a roguelike design, Side Order forges its own roguelite by blending a gauntlet-style tower ascension with its pre-existing shooting and movement mechanics of the base Splatoon 3 game. But with that new, experimental design that finally and drastically forgoes the traditional Splatoon formula of shooting Octarians throughout 4 entire campaigns, is bound to come with some criticism. With over a year waiting patiently since its announcement, being drip-fed information over time, it'd be pretty hard to meet some of the lofty expectations of the Splatoon community. Revolutionized gameplay, an expansive, emotional and thrilling story, in-depth lore and character studies, huge, crazy action set pieces and story moments with a tough difficulty and exceptional bosses. There were a lot of hopes for this DLC. So I'm here to break it all down myself in my brief, spoiler-filled review of Splatoon 3's Side Order. That's your official spoiler warning because I'm gonna get into everything. Now in my experience playing this game, I played the shit out of this DLC. I 1000%ed it in 3 days. Cleared the Spire of Order with all 12 weapons with every spare second I had. Even though I've cleared Splatoon 2's hero mode with every weapon, that was not one I enjoyed doing 9 times. But I ate this one up. However, it took me a while to collect my thoughts properly. The day I completed my first run, I was just in awe of it all, because my sleep-deprived ass had been waiting all night, woke up early accidentally, and couldn't get back to sleep. So I kinda just sat there looking at the screen with 4 hours of sleep and an energy drink in me, loving every minute like a toddler brainlessly watching TV. So now I'm just as keen to break down my thoughts as you are to hear them, I hope. Is Splatoon 3's Side Order actually any good? Yes, this is the part I'm most sure of. This was a fantastic evolution of the Splatoon gameplay loop. The gameplay of Splatoon is unique. It doesn't exist anywhere else. Such a fluid meshing of live resource management, movement, and combat, combined with wholly unique weapons to fling around. This shit is like Mario. You can do anything with it and still have it be Splatoon. It just has such a strong core to it all. But they haven't really changed much in a long while. Until now. There are so many other intricacies to Splatoon's gameplay in the first place that I hadn't mentioned. Why do you think we obsess over the tiny little damage numbers in each patch? Because the game just feels so good in the best of times. Why wouldn't you want the optimal feel for every single number in every single weapon? But if you give us the power to customize every single number in our weapon of choice, the possibilities are endless. Side Order consists of challenging the 30 floors of the Spire of Order to get to the top and complete the game. As you take on each floor, you're given 3 options to choose from. They vary in difficulty, type of challenge, and the color chip reward for completing the floor. These color chips are put in your palette to accompany your weapon kit and change the very mechanics of your character, altering power, support, range, mobility, luck, and your companion Pearl drone, which is Pearl but as a drone. In short, it is so fun to customize your palette throughout your run. You could have a super speed roller, or a lunar blaster with 1,000,000 piercing and range, a Splatana stamper at sonic speed, a Brella that never launches the canopy, or a heavy splatling with a charge hold. You can have a splatter shot piercing 1,000,000 enemies and sending ink strikes down from the Pearl drone every time you kill an enemy, where the ink strikes then kill more enemies to fill that meter again instantly, just resulting in a mess of explosions. You can even customize your kit loadout at vending machines, which is so cool. I've wanted to make certain custom kits for so long, and now I finally got an Octobrush with a Kraken. Although largely RNG dependent for how your run goes, there are ways to increase your influence over your palette customization with marina hacks. Yeah, this game is designed around you probably not completing the Spire of Order on your first try, kicking you back out to the lobby, using key unlocks from successful boss fights to unlock new weapons and lore, and giving you pearls based on how well your run went. Pearls are spent on said marina hacks to increase things like your armor strength, cost of items in vending machines, the cost of resetting floor levels, and your max life counter, for example. This eventually means that most players will be able to complete the game through sheer willpower and endurance to continue attempting the Spire, and they might just find a weapon palette eventually that they're much more comfortable with. After enough runs, of course. These mechanics are so creative, fun, fleshed out, and all make sense. You can challenge yourself with fewer hacks if you want, and there are even incentives to using fewer hacks. There are rewards to buy for challenging the tower multiple times, and a new experience to have with each and every main weapon with their own unique customizations. I think it's safe to say this isn't where the discourse around side order is. Maybe some don't enjoy roguelite mechanics, but the contention really lies elsewhere. My personal biggest issue with the gameplay is the centering around replayability. It's designed to be replayable even after the credits roll, because your experience can be so drastically different each time. I never actually got bored of this loop, I'll be honest. The replayability is still an issue, but not because this loop is boring. I've defended these beautiful new mechanics with my very being. No, it's an issue because a set amount of fairly small maps, most of which can be cleared in a minute or less, are reused across 5 different types of objectives over and over, which doesn't feel like very substantial content. I'd be lying if I said the limited floors in the tower itself didn't hinder this replayability quite a lot. The first run through, absolutely fine, but the next 11, minimum, as I was trying to unlock all the dev diaries and understand the loose threads of the story, got sorta repetitive in their level design on those later runs. Even the bosses, which were a fantastic step up from Octo Expansion's lacking bosses, with crazy music, super cool designs, and a tough challenge, reuse the same 4 for every run. I've killed heaps of these guys. I've seen more of these guys than GooTubers I've seen in all of the online multiplayer. All in all, getting through 12 runs in 3 days, I still did it, and I think that speaks a lot. But I just thought, there has to be something more after the first successful run, right? Not really. The first time you fight the final boss, it's a rogue AI called Order, seeking to cleanse the world of color, but gameplay-wise felt kinda plain. It was still crazy fun and fairly difficult with all its special attacks, but then you just go through what's essentially a playable cutscene after its first phase. The spectacle was really cool for this fight, making you completely OP and you just shred through him with a banger song playing in the background. But it isn't this. And the last run with the final palette you unlock after 11 previous ones, 8's palette with the Octo Shot, does not even change that. It's the same guy you fought at least 11 other times to get here in the first place, even despite some subtle hints that maybe something else is going on with all of this. But I'll get to that later. The main credits you get for the first time really is just, you beat the bad guy. That's all that happens gameplay wise. There's no rising tension, no unique sequence to clear like Octo Expansion's gargantuan final act, packed with heaps of tension and meaning and story, not to mention plenty of unique objectives and a killer boss fight before even the final one. This all speaks to the largest issue here, because overall, the gameplay mechanics were so fun and addicting at their core, I didn't even mind that much redoing things. But part of that determination to clear everything with all 12 weapons was fueled by what I thought would be the expansion of It starts off extremely promising. There's a strange, almost otherworldly dimension that specifically Agent 8 is transported to. Not your regular Splatoon 3, New Agent 3, Agent 8 specifically from the Splatoon 2 Octo Expansion. Why is 8 here? We move through the tutorial phase of the game, eventually reaching Marina in a sick, yet disturbing boss fight, all mind controlled and shit. We then get the exposition dump that Marina's created a virtual world called the Memverse, everyone's minds are stuck in it, and it's run by the evil AI Order, whose goal is to wipe everyone's free will doing whatever they're told. And that is everything. At least everything explicit. The last remaining bit is the final boss. We reach the top floor of the spire and take on Order. It does successfully execute its program, however, and seemingly all is lost. Until you wake up to the sound of music. Chaotic yet beautiful music, and it really is a thrilling moment. That little motif we heard back as early as September last year at the end of the side order trailer, and as the floor victory theme motif, it's spun into a whole new song that leads into a classic Ebb and Flow remix. Pearl screams once again, destroying the entire arena, and you get a million color chips to shred Order. There is discussion of chaos in life as a terrifying force, yet worth it all the same for strong and meaningful life experiences. And that's kinda nice, especially coming from a group of Octolings, all forced to work an orderly and strict existence for their entire lives in the underground Octarian society. But then, it's over. We leave out the elevator, and we're thrown into the postgame. From here, the explicit storytelling is pretty much over. There are strange talks with Order, or now called Small Ask, after each repeat boss fight, about the fellow Octoling developers of the Memverse, seemingly, subconsciously maybe, desiring Order, and that's why what happened, happened. but nothing really comes of it. The story falters for not actually showing much of anything on this topic. Show, don't tell, a principal rule of storytelling, but then again, it struggles to tell us anything too. That isn't to say it's all lackluster, however, and that there's nothing here. Splatoon does this thing where sometimes, implicitly, there's a lot under the surface, and I think there is some stuff to get here. But I have to explain how strange it is that all this discussion and exploration of the key characters and figures involved in the story, Marina, 8, and Oct, through all the dev diaries is only likely to be explored after you clear the main story. Oh yeah, I haven't even mentioned Oct yet, because they're completely unimportant to the story front and center, even though there's so much to pull from now, as you'll see soon. Even if you did somehow get all the dev diaries before completing the Spire of Order for the first time, you still don't get the full picture, as Small Ask talks only about the Octoling devs of the Memverse in repeat playthroughs, and how there might be something strange going on with them. You never have the full picture before fighting the final boss properly and seeing the credits roll. You might complete the tough order of 8's weapon palette, forcing you to either turn off your hacks or get limited to no color chips throughout your run, yet no following climax to cap off the entire story you only now know. You only get that on your first run, where you knew basically nothing of what was going on, or at least only on a surface level. Which is so disappointing, because after my first run, with all the dev diaries still missing, I was so driven to complete the repeat playthroughs. The storytelling seemed to start all the way back 5 years ago at the end of Splatoon 2's Final Fest. What the hell happened from then for the Memverse to be created? Is there something more sinister about it all? Yes, actually, as I said earlier, there is stuff worth looking into, even if there's no huge climactic payoff for it all. Seemingly, at some level, the developers behind the Memverse had some inhibitions about a chaotic new world. While working with Marina to restore the memories of those affected by Kamabo-Ko's horrific sanitization in Octo expansion, that will for an orderly world, consciously or not, was taken advantage of. Which makes a ton of sense. The Octarians have always been an orderly society, even as far back as Splatoon 1, when we get our first look into their workings through the sunken scrolls of the hero mode. In Cosmic Cloud's recent video on Splatoon's story, it was brought up that all these documents you get in the sunken scrolls are very functional, like news reports and blueprints. And this discussion seems to go in opposition to Marina's will slightly. Just because she saw a will to escape Octarian society, it didn't mean everyone else wanted to. Some of those Octarians freed from Kamabo-Ko, the devs of the Memverse, likely felt lost and confused in this world. I think there's a story hidden there about 8 battling similar doubts. That's why their palette was hidden so deep within the lockers, the last one you get, and the hardest one to reconfigure. I'm not entirely sure, because it's barely explained why 8's palette is special and functions differently from the others. But maybe it's finally conclusively solidifying their place in the chaotic new world above, overcoming the last of those doubts. They were drawn to the surface in the first place, intrigued, excited, but they were probably nervous too, maybe struggled to fit in at first. 8's palette being last to complete and so difficult to reconfigure feels very similar thematically to the Inner Agent 3 fight at the end of Octo expansion. But who knows? Because it's barely covered at all! Despite the Memverse being about recovering memories, we don't actually get to see those memories. Nintendo wants to have their cake and eat it too, having a fleshed out character with wants and needs that we don't see. Now in comes Oct. Where the hell does Oct, previously known as Deadfish, the composer for Octo expansion, fit into any of this? I've barely mentioned them. Well, Oct, to me, is a more tragic counterpart to Marina, introduced into this story to show the importance of the Memverse's restoration of people's sense of self, after Kamabo-Ko sanitized everyone and robbed them all of it. We see in their own dev diaries left to Marina that they weren't the most hardworking Octoling, not like a true Octarian, yet despite this, Marina and Oct got along. Yet where Marina shot through the ranks and eventually got to escape the system upon seeing the truth at the front lines, having her life changed by the Calamari incantation playing over the fight from the first game, Oct fell into a sort of haze instead. They were unaware of the motivation behind Marina's departure, only that something about their own aimless life felt a bit better when making music. It made a bit more sense. Seeking to rid themselves of doubts that this is who they are, just like Marina, Agent 8 and the Octoling devs of the Memverse, Oct threw themselves into the deep sea metro to willingly become sanitized, to rid themselves of those doubts, to have things make a bit more sense and so they wouldn't hold back from their passion anymore, but it robbed Oct unfairly of their very soul. The biggest crime of this character is that we knew none of this until it was all over, but this time, I didn't quite mind as much. It was sweet to see that even though this whole situation is extremely complicated, and that we're dealing with a lot of conflicting wills here, that the Memverse did some good. We get to see the light return to Oct, getting sucked into here as a living embodiment of the importance of freedom of expression. That's a lot of ovs. They say now that they're excited to return back to their kind of music, and glad now that they can catch up with Marina, free of the restrictions of an orderly society. We even see that as they jam out together in the true final boss. Someone who never had this opportunity before, countless times denied it, tortured by even their own doubts as they tried to move forward, is now finally free of that oppression, and they can finally move onward. Side Order definitely has some issues. Its pacing is odd, the trickling out of story is messy and disorganized, the gameplay can get a bit repetitive, but it was a beautifully experimental project that I'm still super glad exists, and I still loved playing it. We should be embracing this sort of thing, and I only make this video out of such passion and love for what was created here. Before I completed it all in 3 days, I was gonna save talking about it for a long time in the future. Just things like the mood of the visuals and soundtrack, it was super interesting and creepy. Nothing we've seen or heard from this franchise yet, and the revitalization of the Splatoon gameplay formula is so refreshing that I am super keen to see what they have in store for the future of this series.
Hello? Oh hey, I heard you wanted these. What? Side order! We're a side order! Bring it to me! So yeah, I brought you a side order.